20 ways to instantly speed up your website. Tip number 1. Follow the Google PageSpeed Insights optimization suggestions. Type in the address of the web page you want to analyze. Then wait for Google's optimization suggestions. Work on all given suggestions. Tip number 2. Choose a good web host. Know your website needs and analyze the best web hosting plan that will fulfill all your requirements. Tip number 3. Use a caching plugin if you're on WordPress. Caching plugins like W3 Total Cache and WP Super Plugin makes it easy for you to enable caching without touching any line of code. Tip number 4. Leverage browser caching. If you've got a static HTML website, you can edit the .access file to leverage browser caching. Tip number 5. Optimize images for the web. Web-ready images are not the same as print-ready images. Web images need to have smaller file sizes, so it doesn't weigh down page loading times. Tip number 6. Reduce your image resolution. You don't need 5000 pixels for your images. Most computer screens are only 1920 pixels wide. Resize your image resolution to 2000 pixels or less. Tip number 7. Use appropriate image file type. The appropriate image type will make sure your image quality remains good while also ensuring the file size remains acceptable. Tip number 8. Compress your images for the web. Compressing images mean removing all unnecessary metadata and unused color profiles in image files, which results in smaller file sizes. Tip number 9. Use an image compression plugin. The top image compression plugin for WordPress sites is WP Smush. It's fast, free, and it works in the background. Tip number 10. Minify your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript codes. Minification basically removes all unnecessary characters in your code. It translates to smaller file sizes, which then helps your site load faster. Tip number 11. Use zip compression. With zip, your server no longer has to serve individual website files to browsers. It will send all the files in one zipped file instead. Tip number 12. Use a content delivery network. A cached copy of your website files will be served to your website visitors from a server physically closest to their location. Tip number 13. Work on Pingdom's highly actionable suggestions to speed up your site. Find out which parts of your site you need to work on. Check Pingdom's waterfall chart for more detailed analysis. Tip number 14. Host your videos elsewhere. Videos have big file sizes. It's best to host it on YouTube or Vimeo instead of uploading it to your site. Tip number 15. Use a fast WordPress theme. The lighter the theme, the faster it will be. Choose the fastest theme that will also satisfy your website design needs. Tip number 16. Clean up your database. Use a database optimizing plugin to clean up your database and make your site load faster. Tip number 17. Disable hotlinking of images. People who hotlink to your content are not just stealing your content, but are also stealing your bandwidth resources, which can slow your site down. Tip number 18. Remove all unnecessary plugins. The more plugins you have on your site, the more HTTP requests it makes to your server. Keep only the essential plugins. Tip number 19. Reduce the number of redirects. If you have a redirect chain happening on your site, you need to clean it up so as not to affect your site's load times. Tip number 20. Use a lazy loading plugin. Instead of downloading all your website files at once, a lazy loading plugin will prioritize your above-the-fold content. This makes your site load faster on people's browsers.